Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Integration Quest MuleSoft Study Group. I am your host, RJ Kessler, and today we have with us Angela Henderson. She's going to be carrying on the data relay that we've been doing. As you can see, the numbers have changed. I was just laughing about it a little bit ago. We were calling this 2 of 4 last week. Now it's going to be 3 of 5. So we're building this data relay out perfectly. It's just everything's just happening so perfectly, and I'll explain why. It's the 3 of 5 here a little bit. You'll understand why, but it's for good reason, very good reason. Thank you for being here with us today, Angela. I'm going to go through a couple of things as I always do, and then we'll get this turned over to you so she can be presenting on how to turn some data into something meaningful in Tableau. So as we always say, and I'm thankful to be able to keep on saying it, everybody's been doing great. Everybody's been following the Integration Quest code of conduct. Everybody's been doing what their mom and dad would have wanted them to do. And that's awesome. We're just going to keep that great track record going. We appreciate it. And we'll move right on to the library. So if you haven't seen it, go check this out. This is just the archived videos that we've done here at the study group. We have all these videos, all this information. And if you don't make it to the live session, that's okay, because you can go to these links and we have all these videos archived out there. I usually edit them. Sometimes, you know how it is in this world, we have troubleshooting and things that we have to work through sometimes. The cool thing about going to the library is you don't have to see that troubleshooting because I edit it out. You can get straight to the point, straight to the material, and find out what you missed, what you need to get caught up on, or whatever. I also always like to say, if you all ever have an idea of what you would like for us to present on, or even you want to present on something, let me know. Put it in the comments, share it, let it be known. We've done special requests before, and we'll be more than happy to do it again. So enough about that, and I think everybody's clear on that. Thank you, Angela, for being here with us today. She has a passion for doing what she's doing today and in Tableau. And like I always say, I could read all this off to you, but the biggest part of what I want to share with you all is the fact that she's willing to come and share and contribute and just give back to the community. We're all learning together. Even Angela's learning too, I'm sure. We're all learning together. This is the great part of it. So thank you so much for doing that with us, Angela. I'm going to stop talking and stop sharing so you can do exactly what I'm saying you're here doing. So you all please help me give her a nice warm welcome, and thankful for you being here. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat like I always do. So if anybody has questions, put them in the chat and I'll pop back up and we'll ask questions as we go, because this is just a study group. It's laid back.
Thank you, RJ, for that nice introduction. I'm so happy to be here. I am going to turn my camera off, actually, so you guys can, it's kind of glitchy.
That's okay.
Yeah, hopefully you can still hear me okay. We designed this so you follow along, so it's interactive. You can do it, kind of work through it together. But if you also just want to follow me through this, I'm happy to do that. I'm not sure if anyone has downloaded the Tableau Public to their desktop. If you have, feel free to kind of follow along, but let me know. I won't go through the detailed instructions if you don't have it on your desktop. I'll just kind of walk through how I designed it.
All right, we'll do it.
Evan
I don't
said
know if
he
you've
did.
done it yet. Make sure, I don't know if you've shared your screen yet. I wanted to say something really quick.
No, I haven't shared it yet.
All right, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. Real quick, just can anyone tell me if they downloaded Tableau Public already? Or if you have or haven't, put it in the chat. Okay, RJ, are you seeing any responses there?
I'm not seeing anything. No, you're good.
Okay.
I see your screen now. Looking good. And I'll keep an eye on the chat. Nobody has said anything in there yet.
Okay, that's okay. All right, so welcome to the Tableau data relay piece of this. Today, I'd like to teach, just to give you some background, Tableau is a wonderful tool for visualizing data. It could be a steep learning curve, though, if you've never used it or worked with it before. So I like to teach using a story or a relevant data set, something that you can relate to, because then people can understand how it works a little bit better if it's something that you're interested in, rather than just teaching basic Tableau principles. So what you are seeing on my screen right now is it's a global data relay set, and the underlying source data is built to kind of mimic failed customer transactions, system delays, and revenue at risk. And so today we were going to build an operations control desk to identify where those failures are happening, why they're happening, and what action should be taken next. So we today are stepping into the role of that data team inside that global tech company. The customer orders are failing. Like I said, servers are slow, and the leadership needs answers fast. One of the things when you build something for BI, a lot of people like to build pretty dashboards, and they're gorgeous Tableau dashboards if you've ever been out to Tableau Public or gone to a Tableau conference. But they have to, in my mind, they have to answer the question of what are we solving for? What business problem are we solving for? What is the what, the why, and then what's next? That's how you can add value to your customers and your clients. And I'm sure the same is true for all of the arms of Salesforce, Agentforce, MuleSoft, all of that. It's to answer, what and then what's next. Given that, so we are going to start, and let me know if you have any issues seeing my screen, but I want to just go ahead and start. We're going to go to a blank sheet, and the sheets are down here at the bottom here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. They look like these little icons. They have a worksheet icon. They have a dashboard icon. They have a story icon. We're not going to use a story today, but we are going to tell a story. So I'm going to open just a new blank sheet. Okay. I worked ahead there. It's a cooking show, but in the sheet, this is where I'm going to, normally if you were to open Tableau Public, you wouldn't go to a sheet. You would go to, data, what's your new data source, and you connect to data. So I'm going to kind of mimic that really quick. You're just following along. And RJ has very nicely put our data source into a shared Google. So whether you see here, these are all the integrated things that you can connect with in Tableau Public. If you are using Tableau, the paid version, there's hundreds more of things you can connect to. One thing about Tableau I love is that you can integrate to almost any API, any other system. This is a little bit limited on Tableau Public. We have Excel, we have Google Drive, but today we're going to connect to Google Drive. Google Drive. So I'm just going to do that. When you are connecting to a Google Drive folder, if it's your own, it's fine. If it's someone else's, it might ask you to put in your password in your own Google name account. And you might have to click previously on the file that someone sent you to in order for that to work. So we'll see what happens here. Okay, I'm just going to choose my account. And a screen should, continue. It's going to make you sign into Google, and then it's going to ask to access your Google. Tableau is asking that. You say continue. And then it gives you this window. It's safe to close it. That's fine. Now, if you navigate back to your Tableau screen, you should now have this window that says connect to Google Drive. Okay. And there's this thing that says shared with me. If I click that, I'll see some stuff that I don't know what's going on at the top in a different language, but I also see a couple of folders. And I think, RJ, what is the name of the folder that is it 97, I'm assuming, with my name on it?
I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, in the chat, I just shared that spreadsheet, the link to it, so that way they can grab that. And that gives everybody direct access to it. So that way they can go ahead and do what they need to do with it from there. Would that work?
Either way.
Okay.
Yeah, either way. So, yeah. So I'm not sure if this will come up, but
7, I don't think that's going to be it. So let me see. Okay, here's what I did. When I shared that with you, I just shared the link with you. If you want me to, I can share that with you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I'll click on my link that I created just to give them an idea.
Yeah. Okay. That'll work. And then everybody else has the link in the chat. Perfect.
Yeah. So I created a link in Google Drive. I just kind of wanted to show them how it works. So I created a link in Google Drive. Yours might be in a SharePoint site or OneDrive or just an Excel spreadsheet. But you see when I click the link, it now opens a data source in Tableau, you'll see the connections up. It says MuleSoft agent dataset. You'll see the sheets in the Excel worksheet that I created. Today, we're going to only work with the sales logs spreadsheet. The waffle grid we'll save for next time. Don't worry about that. So once you see this, that's your data set that's been pulled onto Tableau. Just go ahead and if it's not already there, double click sales logs and it'll pull it onto the canvas there. And you'll see that all of the data fields that are in Excel are being pulled into Tableau in the data source. And it neatly puts it into columns, the same columns and everything that you have in Excel, which is very nice. So you can always see which data source, what's in your data source here. Once you do that, then you're going to go back over to Tableau. I'm going to close this out a second because I've already done this. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to close it and reopen it. Just give me 1 second. I don't want to create two on mine, but can you let RJ know in the chat if you're following along? Because like I said, I'll teach it a little bit different. I won't get so detailed. Or if you are just working through it on your own, or you're just watching me. Looks like, okay. I guess I'm going to assume you're just watching me if you are not. All right. So once you get your data.
Yeah, that'll be good. Everybody's just watching. Yeah.
Okay,
that's perfect.
cool.
Thank you. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So I'll go through it. I can go through it then. All right. So if you're just watching me, assume we've pulled the data source in. I have opened a sheet by clicking new sheet here, and I've called it failure map. In order to name your sheet, you just right click on the tab and you would click rename or name, and I just label this failure map. Okay. This is to show you how to turn abstract region names into a map. What I did here was I double clicked region. If you look up to the left, these are all of your fields that were in your Excel spreadsheet, and you've got a field here called region. Notice that little globe, that means it's a location, a geographic field. Usually Tableau will recognize that on its own, but if it doesn't, you would click this little down arrow there, and you would click geographic role, and I'm going to just click country region, so it knows we're looking for the country or the region there. When you do that, it creates this kind of cool little map, and so we're going to go from that map there. The thing is, we're going to use the execution status field, and I just kind of drag that over to my filter shelf, and I'm going to just change that. You'll see here we've got two choices. Once you drag it to the filter, failed and success. We want to check failed and uncheck success. Today we're going to be looking at failed orders and failed. We don't want to look at because this is going to be a diagnostic type of dashboard. So we're just going to check failed and filter that down. So we're only looking at failed. All right, everybody with me so far? All right. When we do that, let's see. Now that you see the regions in the spreadsheet, if I look at those, there's one to do. I'm going to show you something. And if you click describe, you'll see the regions China, France, Brazil, and the United States. But in our spreadsheet, they say a little bit, they say something different. They say maybe North America, Europe, Asia Pacific. That's because sometimes when you're doing a map, you have to alias custom names that you've given regions, so they correspond to actual countries on the map. So if you click the alias within that region field, which looks like a blue pill, you'll see that Asia Pacific, you just click in there and type over it. And I've already done this, but I've changed it. I can spell it. Europe, I've changed it France, Latin America, Brazil, and North America, the United States. Work with these aliases throughout the whole demonstration there. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is the sales amount. And we're going to drop that onto the size card of our icon here, which I've already done. See that once you drop it on that size card with the little light thing there, it changes it to sum of sales amount. The default aggregation of Tableau, if you wanted to change it to count or something like that, you would just go down to where it says measure, and you got sum, average, median, count, or a minimum, maximum. It doesn't have to be sum, but that's just the default. Up a moment, you'll see some of these pills are green, and some of green simply represents that it's a measure, and blue represents a dimension. So that's important to know, because blue pills are categories, say dimension, and the green pills are going to be number. A simple way to explain it, and you'll learn more as you get into complex teachings of Tableau, but think of it that way. So if it's green, it's a number, it's a dimension, it's a category. All right. You'll see I have region twice here on this marks card. I have it once as a label. So I've dragged it on top of the label because I wanted to label the region. And I've also dragged it on this little icon that says detail. And that's where we're in, because we want to make sure that we're looking at country detail in the map. And I'll show you that in a moment. So this map is kind of blah, okay map. We want to make it a little bit more stylish. Also, you'll see when I drag the sum of the sales amount, it created these little blue circles on top of the countries there. That's because it automatically does circles. You can do, if you wanted to do a square, if I change the mark to a square, you'll see it creates a little square shape there, or whatever you want. But circles are okay for now. The size of the circles are the size of the sales amount, because we dropped that on size. So Tableau is just a drag and drop application. But I'm going to go into a little bit, make the map a little prettier. So I'm going to go into map, background layers. So it'll pull up the background layers of the map. And you'll see that the style is streets. That's how it comes as detail here. We want to make it in dark mode. So I'm going to select dark. And instantly on my sheet, it turns it dark, which that's a little bit better. Also, since these are failed amounts, they're blue, I want to change my color scheme there. And I want to make it be an orange or something like that. That kind of indicates failure a little bit more. And if we go back, I'm going to show you the finished baked product. This is my global data relay finished dashboard. And you'll see the map here is looking pretty much like we're creating. Everything is in dark mode. And so we'll get to these other items a little bit later. But so far, we are creating the map. Any questions on the map before I go on?
Just a comment in the chat. That was a good one, Janavi. I appreciate you sharing that, because I would not have known that. So she was just saying great customization, and that it looks similar to API analytics, but it does have this customization feature. Sorry, I can read. I just wasn't reading properly, and you did a great job writing that, Janavi. But it does not have this customization feature. That's what I was thinking you were saying. The API analytics, it does seem very similar to that. That was a good call out there.
Okay. Oh, thank you for that comment. Now, are you saying that the API analytics does not or does have customization? I missed that a little bit.
I believe she was saying it does not have this customization feature. And that's where I was trying to correct that in my mind. I was correcting you in my mind, Janavi, but I wasn't relaying that in my speech. Yeah, it does not have it.
Yeah, no worries. I got it. No, thank you. Yeah. If I'm talking too fast as well, slow me down. I get excited about this stuff. Like I said, I'm passionate, but we want to make sure you understand and get a basic idea. At the tier, you'll also notice that when I dragged region onto my marks card here, that it put longitude on columns and latitude on rows. So it instinctively knows that this is a map, just to let you know. And maps are really cool. If I go back into background layers, there's all kinds of layers and layer over the map. You can do states and counties and cities and zip codes if you have that sort of data. That's how come you see the beautiful visits with all that detail. You can do even more layers like graphics and things like that if you so desire. We're not going to do any of those data layers today, but yeah, it's really cool. So, all right. So moving on from the map, now when you hover over this map and one of the circles there, you'll see this beautiful tooltip. That tooltip is not naturally there. Let me just kind of show you what it looks like if I didn't, without. I'm going to go back a second. So I have a tooltip that looks like, let's see if I can find one. It's natural. I went to another sheet, but this just like white tab, and it tells you what's on that particular visual, the sales amount, the response time. That's how these normal tooltips look. And that's exactly how they would look on the map as well. You would see the region. But I went a step further and created a custom tooltip, which I'm going to take you to, where it actually picks up the dark mode of the viz. If I hover over it, oh, I got to undo that. It picks up the dark mode of the viz if I hover over, and it gives me some interesting facts that a regular, maybe the tooltip wouldn't do, and it also formats it. We're hovering over it, and now we can kind of see the time that something failed throughout the month, 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. We can see May 3rd, 26 and May 7th of 26, the sales amount of China and when these things failed. When you are someone working in the back end, or you're a data engineer or even an analyst, do you want to see everything that succeeded and trying to fish out everything that failed? No. Typically, you want to see the outliers. And that's what we try to design for. As I was stating earlier, we want to design to solve the problem, not to show that we can put all this data in the spreadsheet. So I intentionally filtered everything out, and we're only looking at failed deals because that's our audience. Know your audience. All right. So I'm going to show you how to create this cool tool. All right. All right. So I created a new worksheet. First of all, whenever you click this new worksheet, it creates a blank worksheet, a blank slate. So what I did there was I opened a brand new worksheet. I dragged the blue order date field from the left panel, and bear with me here, just a moment. Let me make sure I get this right. Okay. So what I did, yes, I dragged the blue order date to the columns. Okay. And you're looking at my notes here. That's okay. I wanted to make sure. And count of records to rows. Return to the map, and I open tooltips. Wanted to go back to the spreadsheet. So you drag order date over to the columns, and I've dragged region to the columns as well, right next to it, because we want to aggregate it by region. I've dragged order date one more time to the rows. And when you do that, naturally, sometimes it'll be a year. When you drag order date over, it'll naturally say year. What you want to do is click the down arrow there, and there's more. Then you want to click hour. So that changes it to the hour. There's a lot of choices there. Sometimes you can have continuous dates. Sometimes you can have, discrete dates. And that just means continuous means you're going to have a mark for every single day. And it's going to, but a discrete date means that your data is going to kind of stay static, where you can use it as a dimension, which is what I wanted to do here for the time. So I'm going to remove this. I don't want the year there necessarily. So what the result is, I have my columns of time on the left, and I have my regions across the top, along with my order dates across the top there. And what else is going on with these little arrows, and how did I get the sales amount in there? What I did was I dragged execution status onto my marks card, onto the color piece of it. Execution status is whether it failed or succeeded. And I dragged the sum of sales amount to the label mark there. So that's giving the sales amount. Now, the execution status is failed, and it's going to be orange since I dragged it to color. And that'll remember it's orange throughout the whole dashboard. But how did we get these little shapes there? I simply, instead of doing the automatic shape, which sometimes it'll give you a circle or whatever, I clicked into shape, and I clicked it. Once you click into, you get another little shape icon here. Click shape, and it gives you a little bit more to choose from. So I just choose an arrow. It's a little bit more descriptive. And there you go. There's our grid for our order date. And this can be used on its own, but I decided to actually use it as a tooltip. And now here's the cool part. I'm going to teach you a few tricks, even though it's brand new. So I'm going to go back over here to my failure map. We've named this hourly outage tooltip. I'm going to go back over here to my failure map. And then I'm going to click in the tooltip mark. I'm going to erase everything that's in there. Just highlight it and click delete. Then go into insert. And it says sheets at the top here when you click insert. And I'm going to click what we named our tooltip, hourly outages tooltip, or hourly outages. I have another one. And you'll see there, it puts the sheet name, encodes it within the tooltip. It gives the height and whatever for the sheet name. And you click OK. Once you click OK, now you see that beautiful tooltip that hourly sheet that we created, that sheet is showing up as a tooltip within our map. How neat is that? And do you notice also it's not showing up for every country once we hover over a country? That's because Tableau knows to filter it by country. Since we're hovering over China, it's only showing us the failures for China. And if you hover over France, it had one failure apparently. Brazil, same thing. And all of that is coming from this sheet that we just created that looks like this in large size, but it reduces it once we pull it into a tooltip over our map. And you may have heard of this. It's called Viz in Viz or Worksheet in Viz. Little trick we use as a drill down, because you don't want to put 90 different spreadsheets on a dashboard. Sometimes people want to see the high level data, and then they just want to hover over it if they want to see details. Cognitive overloading, you don't want to clutter your dashboard. Questions?
None so far, and you're going at a great speed. I'm following along. Anybody else got anything to say? Go ahead and ask questions, whatever you have. But yeah, that's looking really good. Awesome.
Thank you. Now, also, if you want to label the sales amounts, which I kind of did on my finished spreadsheet, you can drag this sales amount over and drop it on top of your label. It nicely puts the dollar amounts of the sales right underneath the names of the countries. I kind of like this dark mode because you've got the other countries in the background, but they're not overshadowing what we're trying to show. Next, we're going to build a KPI card. So if you navigate in the syllabus that we sent you to, I don't know if you got the syllabus, but I think RJ put it in the chat for you. There's a phase 4 that we want to look at. It says build 4 story KPI cards. So we're going to build that first one, and we are going to, give me 1 second. So we're going to build the first one, and that's going to be the what. So that's going to be our total failed order. So what I'm going to do is go and create a blank worksheet. And if you forget, if you ever over this, we'll create a blank worksheet, which looks exactly like this. It's just a blank canvas, but I kind of worked ahead, so we won't spend a lot of time with that. But yes, so I've named this KPI failed orders. You can name your worksheets where you like, but name them something that probably is descriptive, that makes sense. So it makes sense to you, your stakeholders, and also to somebody coming behind you that's another analyst or something. You see these posts on LinkedIn where people are naming stuff, file or something, or this version. You want to make your tabs descriptive, you make your labels, you want to make your names of the workbook descriptive. So get off that soapbox a second. Just a little heads up there. Okay, so for failed orders, these are going to be cool. You've heard it, you may have heard of these. They're called bands, BAN, and that's an acronym. I call them big aggressive numbers, but you'll hear the people in the Tableau community call them something else that I can't repeat on this. Just know they're bands, BAN. You might want to use my version.
Angela's following the integration quest code of conduct. We appreciate you, Angela.
Absolutely.
I got to laugh. Thank you.
No worries. Even though the Tableau community knows otherwise, I'm saying big aggressive number. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag execution status to my filters. Again, we've done enough. We just want to make sure that only failed is checked. And we are permanently making that filter failed. We're not going to give our stakeholder the option to change that filter, but behind the scenes, we're just going to leave it failed. It's almost like permanently making it failed, just so I'm kind of hard coding it so we can only see the failed orders. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a calculation, guys, create a calculated field. And we're going to name that dynamic country display. In order to create a calculated field, just right click any blanks over here in the fields, and you'll see a draw. Actually, no. It should be like a white space where nothing's there. My mouse doesn't want to do that. But anyway, if not, just click this down arrow and click create calculated field. And you'll see a screen comes up with a blank slate there with the calculation that you can do. Name the calculation. I have it already, but we're going to name it dynamic country display. All right. And then the formula that's going to be in there is a long formula. I've got notes. I'm not going to do all of that again. I've got it already done. We're going to pull the cake out of the oven, already baked. And if you go into edit, you'll see this is the formula for that dynamic country display. It's a long formula. It's saying if the minimum region is greater than or less than the max of the region, then nothing else. It's just telling us, it's putting it in a format where it's using the aliases of the regions to count the number of orders that were blocked. And I have to do all of this because of the way I alias them. Normally your formulas be, pardon me, that complicated. However, for this particular reason, it is. Once you get that formula, it's called dynamic country display. Drag it over your label, which when I say label, it's text. I put it on color by mistake. I'm going to remove that. And then at the same time, you're going to drag order ID also onto the text icon there. So if you go and look for order ID, by the way, if you type the letter O, it'll find your fields. If you type the first letter of them, you don't even have to search. All right, we don't want to do that. I don't want to put it on those. I'm going to drag it over to text. It wants to put it on the rows. I'm going to remove that. All right. You'll see here, let's drag it over to the text. It's blue. That means it's a dimension. And that's why it's putting 6 different order numbers on this one card. We want to make a kind of a continuous measure. So we're going to turn this blue one into a green one. So in order to do that, you would down-click the arrow on order ID, change it from dimension and click continuous, and then click measure. You don't even have to click continuous because once you click measure and then count distinct. So we wanted to actually count order IDs to make that big 6 instead of putting 6 different order IDs onto our BAN. That makes sense. So if it's a dimension, it's thinking, oh, you want to show the order IDs. I'm going to put 6 different ones. But if you're counting them, we just want a number that says 6. And so that's how we change it from a blue pill to a green pill. And we get the number 6. So almost there. Once we do that, we're going to go into our text. We're going to click right into our text label where it says text and click these 3 dots. And you'll see that it's got a blank card there. You can type anything you want in this card. That's called dynamic labeling. Usually people put the numbers or the dates in there or region names and leave it at that. But I'm going to type a whole sentence in there. I'm going to put system alert, count order ID, count distinct, the order ID, orders blocked in our dynamic country display, our region. So once I do that, I'm going to hit apply or OK. Also notice that I put the count of the order ID. You can change the font. I made that a huge font. I made that 36, where the other ones are around that. That's 12. I also made bold. So the result is, when you look at it on the sheet, it's going to tell you, what's your system alert? 6 orders blocked in. The reason the country is not showing up is, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up here. It's because it's conditional on what you select on the dashboard. If I go back over to my dashboard here, you'll see here's our KPI card. I pulled it over into my dashboard. System alert, 6 orders blocked. Look what happens when I hover over France. 1 order blocked. 1 order blocked. United States, 2 blocked. Also, next to system alert, you'll see the country pop up. So that's another dynamic label. So system alert is blank until you hover over something. France, 1 order. China, 2 orders. Pretty cool, huh? So that's our first KPI card. I'll stop there. Any questions on KPI cards or BANs?
None from me. If anybody else does, let us know. But it's going nicely, following along nicely.
Coming along. Also notice there's that when it's in the worksheet, the background is white. When I drag when it's in the dashboard, it's black. One of 2 ways you can format it like that. You can format your whole dashboard when you're in the dashboard and just format dashboard. The default is going to be white. I changed the default to black. This top made it in dark mode. So that's one way of doing it, is you can change your whole dashboard to black. And I'm going to show you how to drag these into the dashboard a little bit later. But the other way to do that is, you can do it on the worksheet. So if you go into format, shading, and then the worksheet is default color here, just click the down arrow and change it to black. And it makes the sheet black. But work row, look what happened to our labeling. You can't see it. When you do that, you also have to make sure that your text is a lighter color that can show against the black background. So I just highlighted my text layer, and I'm going to change that black text to maybe this shade of gray. I never put it in the white because that's right, and you want to make it accessible. So I put maybe a shade of gray and click OK. There you go. So now you can see against the black. All right, this explains what happened. Now we are going to go to the root cause, maybe why it happened. So, let's see. All right. So we're going to go to a brand new sheet, and we're going to name that KPI revenue risk. All right. Do I want to do that one first? Let's see. Yeah, so that's going to be our financial exposure. So we're going to name that KPI revenue risk. All right. So for this card, what we're going to do is create a calculated field that counts sales amounts only when the execution status is failed. And a little bit of tricks, all these worksheets from scratch. If you write on one of them that you've already formatted at the bottom and click duplicate, it'll make the second one and you just can pull in everything you need that's going to be different, that kind of preserves your formatting. So you don't have to create all the formatting from scratch. That's just a quick little trick. But on this new KPI revenue risk, so what I've done is I've dragged, think about what you'll need to explain this card. We're trying to explain what are we going to do next. So in that sense, we need to have the revenue at risk. And we also need to have the country because we wanted to filter by the country. And then we also need to have our words, like what do we want to say? Our dynamic country display, since we've already done that calculation, I won't go through that again, but we also had to create a new calculation called revenue at risk based on our sales amount. So I'm going to open that up and show you what that calc looks like. So we're just saying if the execution status equal failed, you notice this is just SQL. It's just basic SQL for Tableau. It's no special code or anything. We're just using SQL. If execution status equal failed, then sales amount. Else, else 0 end. So that's pretty straightforward. So if it's failed, then put the sales amount in there. That's it. You couldn't get any simpler. If not, nothing. And to get the KPI card, go into text again. And then I'm going to wrap the words I want to say around my KPI, my measure, the revenue at risk. I'm going to make that 36, the font, and bold it again. And then I'm going to wrap the rest of it in orders currently frozen. What to do next? Resend the stuck orders now. So if we go to our dashboard that's already cooked up for us, this is how it looks, the second KPI. And KPIs are always, I usually put them at the top because you want to start top down with the highest level metrics and then go into the tail underneath that. So this is when they open it, when that executive sees that, or when that whoever stakeholder is looking at this, they want to see exactly what failed and why and what to do next. So our exposure is 26,000 altogether globally frozen. Our next action is to rerun orders via MuleSoft API stat. So when they open it, they don't have to look at a spreadsheet and be like, okay, now I need to figure out how many are frozen and let me do a pivot table and all that stuff. This is at a glance. Again, it's interactive. If you hover over Brazil, see how that number changes and so forth. If you hover over the different states, region, it changes according to the region, and it tells you your financial exposure at a glance. All right. So we have 4 KPI cards. I'm not going to do all of them today because time is flying. It's almost close to noon. So I'm just going to do those 2. On the dashboard, the finished dashboard, you'll see some things here off to the right, financial health. You'll see this little waffle chart underneath that. These are little bugs. If you're triggered by bugs, please use their shape. I thought it's cute since we're talking about bugs. But if that triggers you, please, by all means, use whatever shape you'd like, goals, squares. And then down here, we have a scatter chart, which shows the API response time and how it relates to sales. So I think we'll just go there next. So we'll do the latency scatter plot. Okay. Any questions, comments? Oh, all right, rolling right along. Right. So this is designed to see how your system delays, as I mentioned, connect to a failed high-value transaction. What we're going to do is we have a calc. Actually, it's not a calc. It's actually in our data set called response time, MS. S stands for milliseconds. So I'm going to drag over to my columns and put it on the columns shelf. And then for rows, I am going to drag sales amount and put that on the rows. Again, if you want to find your sales amount, just type the letter S and here's sales amount. You just drop and you just drag it over. Notice if I get over twice or 3 times, it creates 3 different little visualizations, which is kind of cool, but we only want to see it once. That's another thing called the dual axis that maybe if I teach another session, I can show you what all different things we can do with that. But right now, so there's that. Once we do that, if you're doing it when you start off, you might see something like, it might not be aiding properly, and you might see like that when you first do it. It's simply, sometimes when it sees a sum, Tableau automatically tries to sum everything together and aggregate it. You would simply go up into your app and uncheck the aggregate measures. So that's off. So it doesn't end up. So you can get a nice scatter plot. And to get rid of the lines and change it to a scatter plot, you would just click instead of line. And that gives you your nice little scatter plot. You'll see also that I've dragged execution status onto color. And that means that if it's failed, it's going to be orange. And if it's success, it's going to be this kind of faded mute gray. This is one of the few times we're looking at success. Notice in the other worksheets that I filtered out success because we are, and we still are. For a scatter chart, in order for it to make sense, you want to see the clutter or the cluster of everything that succeeded. And notice the correlation that if it's a low response, usually under 200 milliseconds, that it's a high sales amount. It tends to be higher. If you go over here as the response time increases, there's less sales, less orders, and they tend to be typically lower. So you've got a whole cluster of things that response times or success, and that makes sense, right? The higher the response time, you're not going to need that succeeded and got through. You're going to have or that failed. Any questions on their plot? And how this correlate?
Seems very simple to me. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat.
Okay.
Simple to use. I like how easy you just turned everything into something usable.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to make sure there's a story and make sure it's useful and relevant. Yeah, and it's gonna look nice too, piece of it. But you've seen beautiful things, but what are they telling you? I have no idea what this dashboard is doing. We know instantly what this is telling us. So, okay, now we've got 30 minutes left. What I'd like to do is assemble the dashboard in real time. So I'm going to show you how to assemble the dashboard. Up to now, we have been creating individual sheets, and all of those sheets have to be dragged over to create a complete dashboard. So I've clicked this new dashboard icon here, and right now I'm looking at a dashboard. What I've done is, if I remove, this is a blank dashboard. What I've done is, first thing we're going to do is drag the map on. So I'm just going to double click that. So the map that we created, that failure map sheet, is listed here. All the sheets we created are here on the left. And it's right in the middle of our dashboard. But we've got more stuff to add. How do we do that, right? We don't want just the map there. Or you might, but in this case, we don't. First of all, also to hide the title. We know this is a map. We don't need title there. Hide the title. Tableau has a concept called containers, and that helps you to kind of space out your visuals on the dashboard and make them neat and snap into place. And that's all. I'm not going to go any further into that. It can get confusing. But what I'm going to do is drag a horizontal container onto the dashboard on top of the map. And then I'm going to drag our tabs that we created to that horizontal container. So I'm going to put the filters there. It doesn't fill up the container, if you notice. Let's see. Did I put it in the container? Start that over. I think I put it in the container. To make sure, it can be kind of tricky making sure it gets in the container, but it's in there. Okay. It's not showing up because we want to make sure it's got standard there. We want to make sure it says entire view, the fit, so I can fill it out. There you go. I also here, I want to hide the title. Okay, and so it's kind of putting it way over here to the right. I don't know if I right aligned it, but we want to just make sure it is centered. Yeah, it's centered in our sheet. All right, and then what we're going to do is drag the next KPI, the revenue risk, right next to it. And you can kind of see when you drag that sheet, if it's lining up where it is. And then you'll see it's still white. And I'm going to hide that title. Well, that's because I have not changed this dashboard default color to black. And I wanted to do that in real time. So we're going to do that here. We're going to format the whole dashboard to black. All right, so when we format the whole dashboard to black and make this entire view, that's because the sheet is white. It's overruling the dashboard. So I'll go back to the sheet, make sure my sheet is no color at all so it can pick up the coloring of the dashboard. So I'm going to take that shading and get rid of this default worksheet shading and put none. And if you go back to our dashboard, row is blank. So what we need to do is also go back. And I'm showing you this so you can know how to format it. Change it to a lighter color font so we can see it. Maybe this. There we go. Yeah. And this one, I'm not sure why it's right aligned, but let's see. We just want to make sure it's center. All right. And entire view. That'll fix it. Okay. And then we're going to go to our container here. We want to make sure that I'm just trying to align this. And I'm going to click distribute contents evenly. So they're the same size. Not sure why this get over to the right. Alignment. All right. Okay, there we go. Now everything is aligned. So we want to make sure our KPIs are centered, make sure the font, we can see it against a background if we choose it. And there you go. They don't look like what I've done, right? It's because they're big. So what I'm going to do is drag the map. You can just kind of bit and make these a little bit smaller and make the map larger. You can just grab it. There you go. All right, there we go. So it's shaping up. You'll see on the finished product, you'll see it has some borders. You'll see they have borders. This stuff we're not going to get to today. So I'm going to do a little magic trick and just kind of hide this for now. So all we're going to see is the map and the two KPIs right now. That's another trick called hide show. So get rid of this sidebar here. I'll leave it there for now. That's our legend. It kind of automatically pops up. It's a pain. Don't want to see the legend necessarily. All right, to do borders, there's one or two things. You can right click on the down arrow and do a border around the actual sheet. And you can do a border on the container, which both of these KPIs are in. And to make it look nice, I kind of play with both of them because it gives depth and it looks like it's 3D Sometimes you'll have to play with the padding and the border, but just really quick, if you do layout, and then if I want to do a border, I want to do a thin border, thin gray border. And same here. I want to do border. You go to layout. I'm going to do a thin gray border. Now that kind of separates them a little bit. Like I said, also, if you want to get stand out, you could do this. Select the container, holding it, and do horizontal container. Also, if you're clicking, it'll take you back. If you forget which container you're in, you can double click and double click again. It should take you, or double click on this little handle here. It should turn blue. And that if it turns blue, it tells you that both of these are in a container. So you're able to see the container. Anyway, you can put a border around that as well. I'm going to put a thick border around that one. And I'm going to color a thick, maybe blue background. That looks kind of nice, huh? Yeah, I like that. Also, on the dashboard, you can enable your title to be shown. Make sure you can read it. That means I have to make the font light enough. Make it a little bigger. It's 18 font. I'm going to make it like 24. There you go. Voila, shaping up. 1207. I'm going to stop there for a moment because we want to upload it to Tableau Public. And I want to just stop there to allow for questions and not take up the whole time. Be mindful. I would love if you guys were building this with me. It's pretty cool, but I get it. It's a Friday.
I agree. And not only that, what I'm hoping is this will give everybody a chance to get this on the YouTube archives, check it out in the library. People can build it out at their own pace, maybe over the weekend, whatever, whenever things are better for them. And then when you're coming back in July and we're integrating Slack with Tableau, everybody will be caught up on that. But yeah, I totally agree. This has been great. I've been taking notes like I always do. I would have been following along, like I told you when we first met up, just to kind of check everything out. But it's better for me to follow and do it later on account of me taking notes and keeping up with everything. But yeah, it's looking really good. You just took a lot of data and turned it into something meaningful, useful, something that you can just quickly visualize and see on screen here.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for your attention. Last but not least, uploading it. We've got two different places to upload it. If I were going to upload it Tableau Public, I'm pushing it. For the Tableau developer, I'm going to pull it. It's almost like a server. So I'm going to Tableau Public. I'm going to save it as save to Tableau Public. Sign in. I'm assuming you guys will get a Tableau Public account. Once you sign in, you just click and upload. And the finished product, let's go to the cookbook version again. Give me a second to get to the finished product. Looks like, here's my Tableau Public account, and here's this particular dashboard. You can have a picture up there of yourself once you create it. Great way to build a portfolio if you're interested in doing that. Can you still see the screen okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, this is how it looks on Tableau Public. Not much different than but just a larger version. Pretty cool. If people can see it, you can put some descriptive things about the dashboard. You can have it nominated for Viz of the Day. Hint, hint. If you guys want to go out there and nominate this for Viz of the Day, just a cheap plug there. This looks. And when we get to this other side of the dashboard, which we didn't get to, I just wanted to show you. You'll see these bugs I have. That's the corporate sales, the percentage of impacted by failures. So if I hover over France, you'll see that 8% or 8 of those bugs. See, these are actually 100, so I call it a waffle chart. And if you hover over it, it represents the percentage. No more guessing. Is it 8%? Is it 9%? You can clearly see that it's counting 8 bugs. So you know that France has 8 failures, or Brazil hover over 3 failures. So that's another thing we'll get to next time. You can form your title. You can put little there, which I did. We didn't get to finish that. I put a description at the bottom here to show you what to do. Hover over a country or by region. So if you knew nothing about Tableau, you are able to dashboard and see the story. You can talk to somebody and say what order is blocked, why, and what's next. Thank you for, I'm going to stop.
Absolutely. That was Javi had to drop. She started having internet issues and she said she had to drop at the hour, I believe, or she just needed to drop. But yeah, that was awesome. If anybody had questions or anything to contribute, I really appreciate you being here today and sharing this with us today, Angela. You've got everybody on track and set up. Basically, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll pop this up. This is question and answer time if anybody has any after all that. But you've got everybody caught up and ready for next week. You've got us all ready for Slack, and then following that, when you come back for Slack and Tableau. Now I know something about Tableau, and that's awesome. I didn't know anything about it this morning, and now I do, and now I've seen it in action, and looking forward to getting that set up.
Awesome. Mission accomplished then.
Yeah, exactly. You did great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. If nobody has any questions or anything, I am going to go ahead and again, I've already said it, but now it's on screen. That's next week. So next week, we are very hopeful that Allie will be able to come out. That's the plan. And she's going to come out and handle the Slack portion of this data relay. And then we'll get together and we already have a date, but we'll actually advertise it out once we're getting closer to time, and Angela will be coming back and following up. So I'm going to stop talking too. I'm going to thank you again for coming out. Thank you everyone up, and we can hang out and chat like we always do after I hit the stop recording button. I love saying that. That way, if anybody's ever watching it in the recordings, they're like, oh man, people are hanging out and talking, make it for that.